Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you may be. Much love to all of you, and greetings, blessings, and etc. from Hawkeye Two Feathers, your intrepid host for right now. A little quick video. My videos are never quick, but we'll see how this works out. Um, as many of you know that have subscribed to my channel and have looked at things, I've been observing the moon and its position, the stars, the sun, where it's been coming up and so forth over the years. And so tonight, was no different. And my observations early on this evening, this being Friday, July, actually right now it's Saturday morning, but I'm going to just say this is Friday the 27th, 2018, July. And in my observations earlier, I noticed I was waiting for the full moon to come up. Well, first observation, and I made this 2 days ago, was that the moon was way too low south in the sky, where the last two full moons that I've observed from my location here in South Georgia is that I had to look up from my little window observation here in my house here in South Georgia. And I noticed that because it's my reference point, that the moon was already too low in the sky. And instead of having to lean over to see where the full moon was from my position, I have to sit up and look over, and the moon is actually too low in the sky. Okay. That's a real technical terminology here. All right. But to the point though, at 11:30, I didn't change my clocks. So I'm looking at my time be as Eastern Standard Time. Okay. And I know it's 2:36 Eastern Daylight. My clock says 1:36. And I do that for a bunch of reasons. It's a time warp thing that I'm playing with in my own little world here. But one of the big things is that it allows me to use in my world a real-time observation. In other words, if I look at something where this is my observation, I'll just go into it. Okay. My observation is that at 11:30 my time, which is regular Eastern time. Okay. I didn't push my clocks an hour forward. So at 12 o'clock Eastern Standard Time, the moon technically should have been overhead. A little off. Milky Way. Hey, Mr. Brian, howdy. I just decided to jump on here I've been thinking about you. I was going to send you an email to make sure everything was all right. And you just happened to show up and say howdy. So that must mean that everything went pretty well. So, but anyway, let me finish up with this observation before I get off track. My observation was at 11:30 my time, Eastern Standard, the moon was way out of whack. Okay. Meaning it should have been higher in the sky as far as going across the sky. Now, I've already established that this full moon and the last two that I've observed, the moon's already too low in the sky. That's one. The second one is that what should have been midnight or 1 o'clock, the moon should have been roughly overhead. It was late by an hour. Very good. I'm glad you're still in Sedona and hope everything is going well. Good. So I take a break and I'm like, okay, I'm going to go outside in a little bit. Well, I have, with all these phase energies and things going on, I'll get to that after this in a second. But I'm looking out the window and at about 12:15, I took a nap. Just, okay, I had to take a nap. So I wake up about 45 minutes later. I get some coffee. I'm doing my thing. I'm looking around and I look outside the window and the moon has moved from being late in the sky to now it's way over here and I can't even see it out my window. And I'm like, what just happened? Did I just go into here's my phase shift thing. Did I just go into a phase shift? Because there were like, this is really interesting to try to describe. It's like I was seeing different versions of myself outside myself. And it's almost like I was seeing other entities in other dimensions here about a couple hours ago, because I was just like looking out the window. Oh, sun's going down. It's about 8:30, Eastern Daylight Time, starting to get dark outside. And I'm seeing things going by that I'm like, okay, I'm aware of spirits and things and out of the corner of my eye, but this wasn't happening out of the corner of my eye. This was happening in full vision in front of me. And so I'm like, now, what in the hell is going on? So I'm watching the moon, and I'm seeing that the moon's just way late. It should be higher in the sky. It should be further over. And I mean, so when I came out of my little 45-minute nap or whatever, and I look out in the sky, and I know it's only 45 minutes my time, but the moon has moved over 2 hours worth in the sky. In that 45 minutes or an hour, it went from over here and not quite overhead to now it's way over here towards the west. And I'm like, what the hell just happened? I mean, I know I took a 45-minute nap, but stuff like that shouldn't be, I shouldn't be seeing, I should have seen the moon right about there. I should still be able to see it out my window here. And it's not there. I mean, I have to literally lean out over, and the moon is over here now. In an hour? Holy crap, Batman. Now, the phase shifting. I had a dream the other night, and, as dreams go, I'm like, well, I wonder what's going on here, and what is this dream? And I'm a sci-fi fan, and so I've been watching old Stargate, Stargate Universe, SG-1. I can't believe I've missed so many of them, and that they're like 10 seasons or something. I'm only on like season 4. I've watched some other sci-fi stuff, and I bring this up because it's like the things that are in SG-1, Stargate 1, is absolutely phenomenal. And there were some things that came out, I guess about a year ago, about the Stargate program, that we actually do have a Stargate program. Now, I've believed this before Stargate came out. I had dreams and premonitions of a Stargate. I even wrote a short fictional story years ago about a Stargate that was just outside the orbit of the moon. And it was fixated and situated so that it would stay in relative geocentric orbit with the planet Earth and our moon. So it traveled around with us. So there was always a spot. But that this Stargate in space is where the spaceships would go to other dimensions or go to other Stargates and other galaxies, solar systems, etc. Now, this was back in the 80s that I wrote this short story. And I always thought, one of these days I'm going to, find that story and write it, publish it, blah, blah, blah. And then they came out with Stargate. But now it's on the planet now, but Stargate Universe and all these others, they're referring to Stargates in space or in other locations or something. My point to that is that I was having visions of these things in my dreams. Now, just as a person who loves science fiction and a person who likes to think outside the box, I was always trying to stretch my imagination with the short stories and so forth that I've written over the years. I've written maybe 50, 60 short stories. None of them are published, but I wrote them anyway. So, and I'm going to get them together one of these days, I promise you. However, the thing is that now they're outdated. Now that you look at the science and you go, well, when did you write this? Well, 20 years ago. Well, it's really not relative now. I mean, yeah, that's Stargates and all. That's old hat now, Dave. Well, okay. And I'm not trying to say that I'm any kind of a prophet or anything. I'm always trying to explain that for some reason, and quite frankly, I do believe it was all of the LSD and mushrooms and all of the shamanic journeys that I took that has allowed me to stay connected to this quantum. Now, I'm not suggesting that people should go out and take mushrooms and LSD, especially nowadays that, back in the day, it was like real. I had the opportunity or the misfortune, I don't know, 5 or 6 years ago, somebody was, ooh, Mr. Dave, you always talk about acid and this and that. And, I've never dropped before. Would you drop with me and help me? I want to go on this vision quest. So, and I hadn't done any kind of hallucinogenics for a while. And I was like a little apprehensive. I was like, well, so I prayed about it and I said, okay, we'll set up the situation. I'll do a fire and we'll do not really a sweat lodge per se, but a ceremony type thing to make sure that this person would not, go too far out in left field or whatever. Well, it was the worst acid trip I've ever had. And I'm like, I'm sorry, but whatever, and he was like, oh, this is the greatest stuff ever. And I was like, yeah, but you've never dropped acid before. But to the point, I was like, you don't know these days. Somebody's giving you a hit of acid, they claim, and you don't know. Now, back in the day, when I grew up in Tampa and University of South Florida, there were folks that I actually knew who were cooking up some of this stuff in their they call it a bathtub batch. That's what they called it. And so it's like, well, okay. Now I'm telling folks I wouldn't take a hit of acid now for nothing in the world, because you really don't know where this stuff is coming from. Folks are mixing in meth and this and that, and they're calling it LSD. And I'm quite frankly, don't touch it. Now, if you want to have a spiritual adventure, then find some peyote or find some mushrooms, or some folks go with the akasha thing, or that's the wrong word. Anyway, start with an A. And so rather than saying I am a prophet or seer or whatever, when actually in reality, that's kind of what it is. I'm saying that I've just been able to stay in touch with that quantum cosmic radio station, which is also a television station, information channel, okay, if you will. And that I just caught things in the stream years ago, meaning that I just allow myself to go out there and look at what's on the quantum stream and go, woo, that looks good. That's a good idea for a short story, or blah, 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 or whatever. And so there are many things that I've hit upon over the years that have really just like, oh my God, I wrote that? And when did I write this? And how accurate was my science? Even though I don't go into quantum, equations or, write these things. I understand it. I get it, but that's not the point. The point to this matter is that there are some quantum phase shiftings going on right now. And for me to see the moon move, let's see, 5, 10, 20 degrees in the sky in less than an hour, it's like, okay. I mean, I wished, and I'm sitting here wondering, because I'm astounded at this, I mean, I couldn't even see it in my window there, an hour and a half ago, which I should still be able to see in my window. And it's like absolutely gone, absolutely gone. So I'm a little creeped out about watching the moon move that fast across the sky. But at the same time, I'm wondering, well, did I phase shift? I mean, in my reality here in my little corner of South Georgia, did I phase shift? Was I late and the moon was on time? Did somehow my little quantum world here put me in another reality to where the moon and my clocks and my house, everything was slow? The moon should have been higher in the sky. It was late coming up over the horizon. It should have been up higher, faster, sooner, blah, blah, blah. But at the same time, in seeing these, man, it's really hard for me to describe. It's like a science fiction show that they're trying to show that there's an invisible person, and they do this little phase shift in and out, like things like you can almost see him, but not. And anyway, so put your mind in that, because that's what I was seeing. And no, I'm not on any mushrooms. I haven't even smoked anything today. I mean, oh my God, I'm like really straight here. And I'm like, because I wanted my psyche, whatever. Yeah, I smoke a little bit of weed, but it's like very little. And most of it is for pain. Sometimes it is for my own meditation. But to the bottom line is that today I decided that I was going to like abstain for my own personal reason. Like I say, even though I don't smoke very much, that's not the point. I chose to abstain because I wanted to keep an absolutely clear head to anything that might be happening today. So it's like, oh, I could say, well, yeah, that was a really good couple of puffs on that weed there, Dave, and that caused my brain to go phase shift, but I haven't had any. I'm ready for some, but I haven't had any. So, but to the point though, it's like, all right, well, then what was this weird phase shifting that I was physically seeing with my eyes? And I'm like, I mean, it was almost like, I live down here in the country, not many neighbors, I mean, and the closest ones are an eighth of a mile away almost, a good ways, several football fields. And so I know there are spirits in my woods. I've discussed this before. Where I live is between two cemeteries, and just a lot of spirits in the area. Right, there are a lot of Native American spirits in this area, and I can only conjecture from the ceremonies that I've done, Native American type ceremonies, to find out. Okay, give me a history here. Give me some dream vision. Explain to me what's happened in this area right here. And there was a massacre years ago. And I've discussed this briefly, I believe. But up on the top of my hill is a Native American grave that has been desecrated because my neighbor, whose property line and where he found these arrowheads. He found 250 arrowheads, spear points. Some of these suckers were almost 16 inches long, in perfect condition, laid out in a really small spot right at the top of my property. And in fact, within 5 feet, 5 steps from my property line. Okay. Just one, just walk less than 5 steps. So there are beings, and I've got pictures of orbs that I've taken down on the river. I've have pictures of orbs in my woods. So these entities, these creatures, whatever, are here. But what I saw and witnessed today, and several times during the day, however, mostly between 12 and 4 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time, just to give you a reference. Now, I just did some checking before I came online to do this little live stream thing, but I just showed up without any planning, like, here I am. But I checked the Schumann residence, and we have been having some spikes with the Schumann residence. Not drastically, like it was around the 4th and 5th of the month of July, this month. But that it was the peak of the lunar eclipse. Even though it didn't happen over us, it was happening over the planet. So I looked back and said, oh, that corresponds with the peak time. So that's when I saw the phase shifting. And I'm talking, it looked like people walking by, and you could see the hand movement and the phase shift, like they were there, and there was like these static lines, and then it would move like they had taken a step, and then you'd see the static lines there, and then they would, like, by the third step they would have phased out and disappeared. And I'm like, for not being on any hallucinogenic, that was like a really trippy trip. And I know I'm like, I didn't even want to, I was even going to, like, I'm not even going to mention this. But after seeing the moon skip across the sky twice as fast as it should have, I'm like, okay. Now, the Galactics are saying they've been having difficulty placing the moon in the correct spot to help absorb some of these cosmic energies. Now, I've spoke about this before, and it's like, I believe it was like, I think it was this last Tuesday, and maybe actually the Tuesday before, but on KCOR out of Las Vegas, You can find it on radio stations on the internet. And also Dr. Sam Muggsy, and she comes out and she puts her YouTube videos out once a week after they get done. And she brought up this last week, and if not the week before, but within the last 3 weeks at least, what her remarks are. So what's going on with the moon? We're seeing the moon move across the sky faster or slower. What the hell's going on with the moon? And I'm like, yeah, good. And she's over in Arizona or near Las Vegas, over there, out west, versus me on the East Coast. So I'm thinking to myself, well, wait a minute. I've been bitching about the moon. What's going on with the moon? And she states very categorically, now I can't remember exactly what she said, but the fact that the face has changed position, it is coming up. Like one night it comes down way low, and the next night it comes up way high, and the next night it's like not following its normal moon type patterns. Oh boy, do I agree. And so tonight's not any different. Well, I tried to stay in meditative mode today because who we got? Marie and Mother Nature. Hello, both of you, and good evening. Milky Way, I think, is okay. Blessings to you, folks. So I'm watching out the window, like I said tonight, and it's unbelievable. How did it get from here to there in an hour? I mean, I'm not that stupid. I have my moments, but it's like I was trying to be very, 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 very objective today, which I have been. I even stayed off the internet. I stayed away from YouTube. I wanted a clear conscience. I wanted clear thought, clear meditation because of this high energy phase that we're in right now. We're leaving it, but to the point we're still in that full moon phase. So I wanted to do a video earlier and just do like a meditation. Let's do 15 minutes of meditation here. But I'm in being in that state of mind, I missed it. It's like, okay, I'm a little late with the video I wanted to do, but at the same time, I've had the opportunity to see the difference where the moon is so quickly. So it's like, Now this phase shifting, that word came to me as I was trying to figure out what to write for the title of this video. And the message come from above. It's phase shifting, Dave. And I was like, okay, all right, galactic message. Here we go. So Mother Nature, you would love to do a show with me? I would love to figure out how to do a show. I'm serious. I haven't figured out yet how to do the Google Share. This little Chromebook is like really quirky. So anytime I try to share something or do a thing, it like wants to hang up on me. And being that this is my main computer and I don't have anything else, it's like, I'm kind of stuck. So I would love to do a group hangout with folks. And if I can ever figure out how to do it, now I can get folks in, but you're not on camera. It's only an audio kind of thing. So, but I'm going to figure this out. I am. I just don't know when. And then I will invite everybody on. I don't care. I think we all have a point of view. And the more that we discuss this point of view amongst ourselves, and this is like open to anybody, anyone who wants to listen to this conversation, obviously. I'm posting it for general view in YouTube, etc. So, yeah, it's just a point of view. And yes, it's just my observations. But at the same time, it's like, man, even for me, some of this stuff is kind of strange. And like this phase shifting today. So I'm getting like an incoming message from the big giant head. That's my joke with my friends up above. But they're telling me, yes, there was a phase shift going on today. I'm listening right now as I speak. The phase shifting did have to do with the cosmic energy and the longest lunar eclipse. Like I've never heard of one lasting as long as it did. Especially the full number thing with, the full, from one end to the other. But anyway, it's amazing, right? So they're telling me that the phase shifting, hang on, let me get this. The phase shifting is a result of the fixing of the timelines. I've discussed the frayed edges where the timeline was severed in places. The frayed ends, like a piece of rope, were sticking out like this. And what's been happening since the first of this year, especially, are the timelines are coming together, and they're starting to twine around and become like a rope, like a cord. And so they're telling me now that this phase shift that we are actually in right now, but it was higher. I don't know. Well, it's almost been 12 hours ago now, since it's like 3 o'clock in the morning now. So it has been 12 hours. But this phase shifting, this is what they're telling me now. The phase shifting has to do with the repair of the timelines. And the phase shift that we saw, if anybody else saw it today, other than me, is that we're getting back to a single timeline versus splits in phrase. And that the phase shifting was bringing some of these dimensional characters and other things back into phase. Like a three-phase motor or a single-phase motor. Anyway, a phase, which would be like an electrical energy. Actually, it is an electrical energy. So these electrical energies have been so frayed that now they're phasing and fusing, if you will. They're sending me this word to help explain. They're fusing these timelines back together to repair the original timeline before these buttholes messed it up around 2012, where everybody thought nothing happened in 2012 in December. It really did happen. We have been in a time loop, and other people, unbeknownst to the rest of us, I guess, there are folks talking about this time loop that don't believe in other types of terrestrial beings or other things or this and that and blah, blah, blah. But they believe that a time shift happened that started in 2012, which is like kind of odd for me that other folks would discuss it, but then say, yeah, but all this other stuff is like just conspiracy theory. Well, but I could say your theory on this time loop thing that started in 2012 is also a conspiracy theory. But I've had the same thought starting in 2013, in the spring of 2013, which was right after that shift, that this shift, we were in progress. And I wrote several things about it. I talked to my friends back then, and everybody told me I was back crap cray cray, and I quit talking about it because I had no proof. There wasn't anything that I could put my finger on or point to and go, you see that right there? That's what's going on. Excuse me a second. God, I hate when that happens. So anyway, but the Galactics are telling me right now that this phase shift that went on today, whether you were able to see it or not, it's still surprising me. Like, what? But that it is to repair the timelines. Now, in other places and other folks, they have been discussing the fact that the timelines are frayed, that we have broken timelines, and that why some things seem like they're not moving, but at other times it seems like stuff around us is going like a bat out of hell around us or past us or whatever. Like some days the politics are like boom, 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 and we're just overwhelmed with information. And then other days or weeks or whatever, you look outside and go, hey, shit going on. You know, what's going on here? So, but that's the timelines being fixed. These things that have been unraveled, cut, tweaked, otherwise messed with, the Galactics and all of the really good entities are putting our timeline back into a more homogeneous kind of single track. And so when these high energy situations like today with this lunar eclipse and everything, plus all the other energies in the universe and the Schumann resonance and etc. So it's a conglomeration of stuff. It's not just the lunar eclipse, but the lunar eclipse is part of it. I mean, think about the fact that the Earth, the moon, and the sun were in a direct line for all that time today. Holy macaroni, whoa. So there was some major exchanges going on. Okay. I can't explain them all, and don't. I just understand that those energies exist, and that they are transferring with the Earth, with the cosmos, and us. So I know I'm going to be curious in the next few days to see if anybody discusses this time shift phase thing, and if anybody else noticed it, just for the hell of it, and how much, if anyone, was affected by today. Meaning, it's just a feeling, and it's hard to describe. Okay, something came over me today. Well, it wasn't like an evil thing. Now, I have a family member who is, I haven't heard, but they were on the verge of crossing over to the other life, and may have. And that has put me in a somber mode, if you will, because I've been focused in intention, and I don't know if this person can be healed. But at least I can focus on helping them to make the transition from this meat body to the next phase for them. And so some of my energy has been devoted towards this, distracted, if you will, from the rest of the universe. But in that, there has been a sadness that came over me. Now, I don't know if the sadness had to do with some of this phase shifting going on, or these energies today, because of this, my other family thing that had my attention, and that maybe I was getting reciprocal back, because there is sadness within the family with this person, in a coma and passing away. And, it is what it is. So I don't know if that's where the sadness came from. I just took it for granted earlier that that's where it came from. But as I sit in front of you now discussing what's happened today, I'm actually kind of having a little bit of second thoughts about that, in that the phase shift had our emotions go, because at one time I was like so high in a way that I was like, whoa, and then all of a sudden it was like sadness came in. And it wasn't a depression, but there was a sadness. Now, was that because of the phase shift, or was that because I was tuned into a family member? I'm not sure about that. So I'm gonna be watching for the next week or so, see if anybody discusses this out in the open, kind of thing, just to find out if anybody else even observed what I did. Now, being the kooky old hippie that I am, down here, the old hippie hermit, I have a tendency to notice things that a lot of people won't even discuss. And so, am I better than the next guy? No, but I'm really observant. That's all. I'm just observant. I notice things. And when little weird things happen, I go, ooh, that was a weird thing. And I kind of put it in my little notebook in the back of my head. So, but now other folks are starting to discuss these types of things. They're having these phase shifts. They're seeing, and in what, it wasn't a ghost that I saw, because there were like frequency lines in the ghost image, which was, it was like watching UHF TV without an antenna with all this fuzz on it, and then the lines across it in the middle of the night back in the old days. So it's like, it was like that. It was like a movie, but I was awake, positively awake. The other thing that was odd for South Georgia, by the way, today, the high today at my house. Now, this is the end of dog days, July. So the hottest time of the year in South Georgia. And the high today was 80 at my house, 80 degrees. Now, we had a lot of cloud cover. In fact, I can't remember seeing through the clouds to a blue sky or whatever today. But the high, it might have been 81, And I'm talking right outside my door here. 81 degrees? Even if it was 82, if it was 85 degrees, that's below normal for us in the middle, at the end of July here, going into August. And it's like there were rain showers around, but we didn't have any rain. But the temperature was 80, 81 degrees. Oh my God, it was beautiful. But this is July. This is not supposed to happen unless it's pouring rain and it's really overcast. Yes, it was overcast, but not the kind of overcast that should have kept the temperature as low as it was today. Now that's just a weird coincidence. I don't think it had anything to do with the lunar eclipse or whatever. That's just, it happened today. Now I'm sure that it happened all over South Georgia. This isn't normal. I mean, my point to this though, in South Georgia, northern Florida, this is a very rare occurrence to have a temperature this low at this time of the year. Really out of, way on the low side. I mean, to the point when I went out to feed the cats earlier this evening, as it was about 9 o'clock, I went outside and there was actually, I was like, there's a chill in the air. Like, what? This is July. This is what I feel in September. About the second week of September, you start getting cool air down here in the South. But it was like happening today. So I hope it's just nice tomorrow. I got work I want to do, outside. But the incidence of weirdness, if you will, has been very strange this last week. I'll be right back. I can't remember when I took my Benadryl, and I have to not take too much of it. So anyway, sorry about the runny nose. The weirdness that's been going on for the last week, I wanted to try to do a couple of videos earlier on in the week, and I was just quite frankly told I had to shut up. I had to just be quiet, and I had to go on a spirit journey, if you will, dream journey. And in that dream journey, I was going to be shown some more stuff. Folks call it a download. Okay. So for a few days, I was like in a shut off mode. I mean, I can't remember Sunday at all. I went from Saturday to Monday afternoon going, but okay. So, and thank goodness I'm able to do that. But my chickens don't get fed. And anyway, so in this weirdness, though, has been some really strange observances. For example, that, and then some of them got confirmed when I listened to Sam Muggsy's show on Tuesday night. But some other things were confirmed over the weekend, as I stated in another video that I did. My discussion about compassion and, we got to stop the hate, start debate, negotiate, and then resolve the issue. It's like it's being repeated, which I love. I find it humorous that it seemed like I started literally putting this in my video description, and now people are repeating it. People that I've been watching for many years now, and that I trust most of what they say. And the biggest thing, as I've said before, is the timeline is the only thing that's been off. Well, this should happen in the next 3 weeks, and it might take 6 months, but it happens. My only bitch, mostly. But to that point, though, these folks are repeating the same things that I was repeating. Now, I'm saying this because I'm just listening to the cosmic radio station. And I listen to that same quantum station that they're picking up. So my interpretation, my own personal videos, my discussion on this is like what all these other folks are now really, 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 really kind of almost pushing. Like, listen, you guys have to act with integrity. You have to, you got to be honorable, and you need to look at your daily lives, and our frequencies are changing. And they have discussed these things in the past, but with less emphasis on these particular words, especially like I keep using the word compassion a lot. And it was like the word compassion just kept coming out. And it's like, normally they may mention it in a conversation, but they were using compassion. Remember, compassion, thumbs up. That's all I'm saying. It seems like I am tuned in to at least the core value of this cosmic radio station that I listen to, and as my job as communicator is to try to interpret these things. And, I try to get 3 different validations, at least from my 5 or 6, what I consider good sources that I have been able to trust over the 5 or 6 years, about since 2013, actually. So that's 5 years, ain't it? Okay. So I know y'all are writing stuff, but if I put my glasses on and look, I will lose track of this, and I want to stay on track. So forgive me. I'll read your comments in a minute. I love you all. Thank you. But so I distracted myself right there. So this cosmic information, it's just curious to me that within the last 10 days, there have been an overemphasis of these same words. The word frequencies tossed around, but they're like really pushing frequency, really saying, you have to drop these things in order to allow yourself to ascend. And I think to myself, as a skin diver and snorkelist and all that back in my earlier days, if you've got a weight belt on, you need one if you're going to go skin diving with a tank. That if you're on the bottom and you want to go up to the top, and I don't mean from the bottom of the ocean per se, but if you want to go up, you drop your weight belt and you ascend. Well, you know what? I use water and wave motion and so forth as a good conduit, if you will, to explain the motions of wave energy and this type of thing, because it's a visual thing that we can see, waves, water, etc. But in trying to understand about this ascension, I keep talking, harping, preaching, whatever folks say, that you got to drop this world, this reality, what you need versus what you want, and when you really look at what you need, you find out, oh my God, I actually want more than I actually need. And so when you start into that phase of reality, when you understand and and a lot of folks are starting to tell the Catholic Church to go to hell, which I absolutely love. They're telling the Pope to go to hell. They're telling the Vatican to go to hell. And I'm like, man, I've been with you since 1970 on that one. But so you can see that folks are waking up to this stuff. And I mean, rapidly. I mean, just the last 6 weeks has been like, whoa, holy crap, look at these people. Their comments in the chat rooms. I mean, some of the people that used to like bicker back and forth, they're not bickering anymore. There are things that are going on that I'm like, sweet. Because that's my intention. That's my intention. My intention is to, hey, we all in this together, brother and sister. And we need, if I have information, and this is something else that the Galactic said, 3 different places last weekend. And I know it's a week old, but here we are. So it still means something. That if you are awakened to these things, and it's like the Bible, if you follow the Christian mode, whatever, that if you hide your light under a bushel basket, doesn't do any good. So you take the light and you put it on top of the bushel basket so that it spreads out to everyone. Now, why is this important? The Galactics very pointedly said, if you know information and you don't share it, if you don't help one person to understand what's going on, if you withhold this information, It's just like wearing a weight belt and you can't get to the top of the surface of the water for air. You're weighting yourself down because we are supposed to share. And so it's like, okay, I'm just crazy Dave, but I see these things. I'm hearing these things from the Galactic Channel. And if any of you, I know several of you have watched and listened to me over the last few months or so forth, or weeks or whatever, and I do appreciate it. I do. But I seriously doubt if you've heard me say anything negative about this, because that's the last thing I want to do, is to be negative in any way. We're all going to see this in a different light. We're all going to feel it in a different way. All these shifts, all these phases, all these things that are happening to us right this minute are affecting each one of us differently. So you might be able to describe what happened to you today in a different way, in a different light. And that's perfect. That's fine. But did you feel anything? That's the key. Did you feel anything? Do you feel different? You know, do you feel like more lighthearted? Do you feel lifted in any way? Or, you know, did your depression lift at all? Were you sad for the last 6 weeks and suddenly you were not sad anymore? I mean, you know, there are ways to determine, even though it's not a quantitative way, it's more of a qualitative. Quantitative means you can do it by the number. This is 1, 2, 3, 4 on a scale of 10. This is a 6. Okay. But qualitatively, it's like, well, I feel better. That's quality versus quantity, or quantitative. I can't give you, I can say, well, on a scale of 1 to 10, I'm about a 4. Yeah, but my 4 might be different from your 4. So that's like, But you can say, you know, I feel happier today. And even though you can't really put that on a scale, it is quantitative in the fact that you can give a quality of how you feel. I feel better. Ooh. Well, 2 days ago, you might have said that you felt better, but it was only a 5. But 3 days later, you might feel that, oh my God, that 5 actually is a 10 today. Where tomorrow it might, you know, might fluctuate. So, but if you can look at your overall how things are going, and you say, or feel worse, it can go either way. But to my point, though, you can be qualitative about it. You can tell by the quality of your life. Now, my perception, and I see the word perception down there, Mother Nature. I try, I try not to look because it really distracts me. But to the point, it is a perception. Now, I bring this up because I've been on pain medications for, I don't know, 5 or 6, 8, 10 years. And I'm almost off of all my medications, except for ibuprofen and an aspirin and Benadryl for my sinus issues. So I'm almost off all of my pain meds. Now, I seriously doubt I'll be able to give up the ibuprofen and the occasional aspirin and so forth, maybe the Benadryl because of just pollen and stuff. But to the point, though, I'm not taking any hardcore narcotics any longer. Gone from my system. Or there might be a little hang on, but mostly they're gone. So my perception of pain, when I go into the doctor, they give you this thing. Well, how do you feel? And you have to rate. They give you a sheet. In order to get your pain meds, you got to fill out your pain schedule for the last month. So the 2-sided piece of paper, how do you feel on a scale of 1 to 10, on a scale of life thing, and blah, 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 blah. And I've filled, I don't know, several dozen of these things out over the years, right? Because I was in pain management with my doctor. And so I look at the question and I'm like, you know, I feel so much like crap today. And they're asking me this stupid ass question about, well, what's the quality of your life? My quality of life is, from a scale of 1 to 10, is a 0 the last week. I couldn't wake up. My back was bad. I was blah, 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 blah. But if I put that, they're going to go, red flag me, red flag me. There's no way you can't feel that bad because you would quit breathing and you'd be dead. And I'm like, yeah, but I was almost dead. I don't know how I survived the last 2 weeks, if you want to know the truth. And then I started realizing, wait a minute now, They're making me evaluate my own pain. And I'm trying to evaluate it over a period of time so I can receive these narcotics from my doctor on a legal basis. Everything was above board. But I was like, well, wait a minute now. How I feel today, which goes back to your thing, Mother Nature, about perception. My perception of how crappy I feel today was different from how crappy I felt a month ago. Now I had to look at the same questions because they don't change. How did it affect your normal lifestyle? Can you drive yourself to work? Well, no, I can't work. Okay, that's another one, blah, blah, blah. So where are you on the scale? And I thought to myself, I go through this every frickin' month. I have to determine what my perception of my pain is so I can write it down on a sheet of paper that possibly no one will ever see. But because I have to maintain this certain pain level to get my meds, I have to interpret this crap. Hang on. Sorry about that. So, why is this important? Well, it is a perception thing. So, what is my perception of how I feel today? Well, earlier I felt like crap because I was going through this phase shift thing. And then I was like, well, wait a minute, but I didn't really feel like crap. There was really just a really short period that I had this really sad feeling. And then I was like, yeah, well, I'm praying for a relative of mine who's really ill and passing over. But is that where my set? Is this part of the phase shift? Is it? Okay. So I'm still in question now. And my guardian angel is like trying to feed me some information as I'm trying to describe this with you. And I'm trying to describe this in hopes that maybe you will help to figure out how things are feeling with your own self. This isn't about me. I'm describing my own feelings, hoping it will help you. Okay. Now, I've had very few comments, I must say. And mostly I think they're all on my Facebook account about some of my quote friends, Facebook. Okay. Some of my friends, you don't know what the hell you're talking about. Well, okay. And you're always saying, it's not about you, but you're always talking about yourself. Well, yeah, I can't talk about you and your feelings. Now we can have an open discussion, and that's what I really am hoping for. But I'm describing my world for your benefit. I don't have to be here. I could be watching another movie. That's not my point. I enjoy running my mouth. As a kid, they were always stuffing a sock in my mouth to shut up. But I can only comment on my own reality, on my own world, and my own perspective here. But I can expand my perspective because I see other people across the world in my, watching the world news and so forth. And it's not just the news. I'm watching the reaction to the news versus what the news is per se, because I find that it's more exciting and more entertaining than the news is to watch people's reaction or perception to the news they're watching or whatever. So, but that also gives me a good indication, in my opinion, because the comments have changed in the last 3 months, big time. And in the last 6 weeks, they're changing even more. And the more that, and I personally believe that it's all of us. We're all starting to think more in the compassion. Like, and maybe it's because of a conversation that I've had with you all. And like, I've said, I've had discussions about forgiveness. And when you actually forgive someone 100%, 101%, and you got to push it past that 100% mark just a tad at least to get the full benefit. but that there is a lifting of your spirit that is absolutely incomprehensible. There is no way to describe it. And I've seen 2 shows, episodes of different programs, different types, but they were both talking about the same thing, about how when they went through the act of forgiveness for what nasty things someone had done to them, how much they felt a lifting of their spirit, and how that changed their whole process. Yo, sure, it was just a television program, but the fact of that they wrote it in such a way, whoever wrote it had to understand it, because you can't write about something like this and have the act as an actor, as a director, as all that good stuff that I've discussed before, to get that type of emotion out of your actor or actresses. You have to help them find a place in their own mind so that they can draw on something. Like, do you remember how you felt when maybe you lost a pet, or your grandmother died when you were little? Something that you draw upon to help pull an emotion out so that you can act. You pull emotions from yourself so that you can show the audience and portray your character, because that's what a good actor or actress, that's what they want, supposedly, is to be able to portray the character in the most accurate way that they can, and to get the audience, in tune to this. So when I worked with actors and actresses, I would sit down with them personally and say, okay, let's look at your character. Let's go through this. If you were this person, how would you feel? Can you find something in your own life that resembles what this character in this play is doing or is experiencing? So with that said, in order for them to write the script about how that feeling is, whoever wrote that script, or scripts, because it was 2 different shows, 2 different formats, like one was on TNT and another was on Netflix or something. I mean, really totally just different. But they both said the same thing. Maybe I should go back and look if they were written by the same person, but when I look at a show, I as a director and actor, that's what I do. Who's the director of this show? Who's that person? Who's this one? Who wrote that? And so I look for commonalities in directors and writers and so forth, and I haven't found any commonalities. But the commonality I found was that they were all describing the same thing. When you have forgiveness, true, absolute forgiveness, and not in a religious way. This had nothing to do with religion, although the one was leaning very heavily towards Native American, but to the point, though, it was the feeling that they described. And if you have never forgiven anyone 101%, you don't know what that lifting feels like. Now, where does this fit in? Where does the weight belt fit in, being underwater? All right, we're all have been discussing about ascension or moving up the ladder, another dimension, whatever. Well, now think if you're a kite. Now, in the old days, we made kites out of newspapers and balsa wood. And I remember my granny showing me how to do that. And we used Elmer's glue, and it took a day to dry. But we made our own kites. And we tore an old bedspread or a sheet or a pillowcase or something like that and used it for the tail. Now, if you had too much tail on the kite, it wouldn't fly. If you didn't have enough of a tail on the kite, it went like this and it wouldn't fly at all. I mean, it was, so you had, and some days was a lighter wind, so you had to take off. And we always tied knots in the cloth so that we could undo one. So on one day when it was a really light breeze, we'd take part of the tail of the kite off and it would go up. If it was a really windy day and the kite was all over the place, we'd add a piece to the tail to add a little bit more drag, add a little weight. But if you added too much weight, that kite wouldn't go off the ground at all. Same thing in water. You want to raise to the top and you're in the water and you got your weight belt on. Well, if you want to go straight to the top, you just drop the belt up you go. If you still have air in your lungs. If you want to take a slow ascent, you drop off one weight, takes you back up. If you are a kite, and depending on the wind, so you want the kite to go up in the air and stay up there and be stable. So then you choose the right amount of weight. What about our spirits? We're tied to this meat bag at the moment. In my discussions and other people's, and especially like Christ, well, and Buddha too, by the way, that worldly possessions just don't matter. They're going to weight your spirit down. And they do. And the more in my life, if I've discussed about this, the more I work on just what I need and not what I want, I find that my spirit has been able to rise up on its own without any external help. Because my focus is not on want. It's just basically what I need. And I mean, even as much as 6 months ago, I thought I was doing good, but I still hadn't realized. And it was about the December 21st, that date right there, which was really significant to a lot of us. Because that was supposedly the true end of the Mayan calendar, by the way, this last December. So I was looking at what I thought I really needed. And even though what I think I need is like really small compared to most folks, I realized it was eating up money that I was just wasting my money. And I mean, I only get $1,000 a month, and I used to almost make that a week, So it's like, I'm really cut down here. And I was always frustrated. Well, I don't have enough money at the end of the month. And damn them sons of bitches for cutting my check, which I'm still pissed about that. But that's the government for you. I had to stop and look and go, wait a minute, Dave. I used to get by on $300 or $400 a month back when I was really hurting and come out of the hospital, didn't have a job, and I was selling stuff, and I was happy at $400 a month. Well, now I'm making $1,000 and I'm complaining. Well, yeah, costs have gone up and things, but I realized it so had what I thought I needed. I found out that I was still, as much as I was being Mr. Hippie Hermit, I was still being brainwashed by the society. But you need that over there. And then I'd go, well, wait a minute. If I need it so bad, I'm not going to buy it. I want to see if I need it. Now that's going the opposite damn direction. But in my case, I was like, wait a minute. In my own life, I was like, well, Dave, you got to have that. I was making all these excuses in my own damn head. And I realized, wait a minute. Where did that thought come from? Why am I convinced, even in my tiny little world of what I require, was I broke at the end of every month? I mean, absolute was selling shit. Sorry. So when I got to looking at it, I was like, you know what? Society got me even more. Even when I thought I had scaled down, if you will. Society was still tucked in my brain. So you better have that. You better have that. You really do need that. You gotta, if you don't buy that every month or blah, blah, blah. And I started looking around and I was like, well, wait a minute. I thought I was out of peanut butter. Come to find out, I hid 3 jars of peanut butter and I bought a 4th. I got 4 brand new jars of peanut butter and a half one in the refrigerator. And I'm like, well, wait a minute. What the hell did I buy another jar of peanut butter for? Oh, yeah, but you might need it. Well, then I found 2 more that I'd stashed someplace else. Now I have 6 jars of peanut butter. Well, at almost $3 a jar, that's that's gas money to go back and forth to town. That's money to go to the doctor with. I mean, Now, not that I can't eat the peanut butter. That's not my point. I was somehow subjecting myself to, because I hid the peanut butter from myself, not to hide it, but to store it. I didn't see it open. I forgot that I'd hid it because of being brain damaged. But then I was like, well, wait a minute. I kept thinking I needed this. Well, you got to have you got to have a jar of peanut butter this month. You got to have, I go to the store, you got to have get this. Wait a minute. So when I started looking around in my own little preppy thingy, for, hard times, etc., I looked around and I went, wait a minute. What I need is a jar of jelly. I got, say, almost 8 jars of peanut butter and a half a jar of jelly. Now, how far is that going to go with you, Dave? So part of me was like, peanut butter. I don't have any jelly. And it's like, peanut butter is no good to me without some jelly. So in the humorous part of I need this, I want this, I look at it and I go, oh, I need peanut butter again. Oh, and I left out the jelly. So I'm sitting here going, I got 8 jars of peanut butter and that much jelly. This is not going to work. So what am I going to do when I get my check in a couple of days? Go buy some jelly. But to the point, though, it's like, I don't know what was in my head that I had to keep buying a jar of peanut butter. Now, yeah, it stores well and all that good stuff, but I didn't need it. I wanted it, but I didn't need it. So that's my own little humorous thing in there, but I see other people doing stuff and it's like, it's your own life. Do what you want. I can't judge. But at the end of the week or the end of the month or whatever, and they're going, damn it, man, I ran out of money again. And I look at them and I go, yeah, but you spent $40 over there because you said you needed that. And what did it get you? Well, I don't know. They don't have an answer. But if they had not spent that $40 on that thing, whatever it was, I just simply asked the question very simply, did you really need that? And so I asked that question to everyone, kind of rhetorical, if you will, in the, do you need these religious constructs to get to heaven? Do you need these political dramas to, go through your daily life? Do you have to be angry at everything? I mean, it's like, because all of these things are dead weight to our spirit. Every one of these things, dead weight. I mean, you might as well have your feet in concrete because you're not going up. You're going to be stuck down yonder. And so I try to use these little metaphorical whatevers they are in trying to explain in simple everyday terms. Now, in my life, I can say, 8 jars of peanut butter was a little ridiculous, because it takes me at least a month to eat a jar of peanut butter on my own. So I got a year's worth of peanut butter. But it was that somehow in my brain, I thought I had to have it. And I was convinced, and it's like I couldn't go by the peanut butter shelf without grabbing a jar of peanut butter. Nothing special, no, just peanut butter. No, well, I do have a brand, but it's not like a regular, anyway. So when I go buy the peanut butter now, I laugh. And now I can't find the jelly. It's like, what happened? There used to be rows of jelly and guava and peach and blah, blah, blah. Now they got strawberry, grape, and maybe apple jelly. And like, what happened to all the other jellies? Oh, well, you can buy some blackberry jelly in a little old thing for $4, or you can buy this other stuff. But now I'm talking about just my regular stores I used to go to. There used to be 6 or 7 different varieties of jelly. Now there's only 3. If you can find those 3. Dadgummit. So, excuse me. Sorry about that. I'm gonna have to make this a little shorter than normal. But anyway, shorter than normal, shorter than 3 hours. Crazy. But anyway, so I can't make the determination for yourself, but I would ask you to look in your own life and ask. I mean, you've got to be brutal with yourself. Do you need that, or do you think you need it? And I'm talking about in the religious sense or in the spiritual sense. I mean, I love to use sage and smudge myself, but I haven't had any white sage in a long time. And so if I have a little bit of other sage, basically I buy from the grocery store. It works. It's not the same, but it is sage. But I think to myself, I used to freak out if I didn't smudge myself 2 or 3 times a day. I don't do that now. Well, I don't have the same amount of sage, blah, 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 blah. But I'm like, well, wait a minute. When was the last time I smudged myself? A couple of days ago. Yeah, but I didn't die. Oh my God. The spirits didn't attack me. And I'm not dead yet. And oh my God. Oh my God. Oh my God. So look at your life. And as much as I want to apple butter, yeah. Apple butter, yeah. The brown stuff, that really good apple butter. I literally love that about you, you freaking hippie hermit. Yeah, I am. I saw a few this morning. I just wrote was all like, wow. Oh, Marie, you got to see the thing? Oh, that's cool. Let's see. I'm going back up. All right. I would love to do a show with you, David. If no one has told you guys lately, you're doing a great job. Well, thank you. Thank you. Thank you. And as I've said before, and I'll repeat it again, this is not about numbers. I've never asked anybody to like or share. It's up to you. If you wish to, fine. It's not about the numbers. It is about, though, Marie, I did try to watch a tutorial about how to live stream and get folks to come in on Google Hangout thingies. It's really weird. It's not instructions, it's confusion. Mother Nature, you say you've made a video on this. It's in your playlist. I don't know what I was talking about, but okay. And I do subscribe to folks, Harmonious as to weather changes. Yeah, I've been like yours, so grateful. I think it has been universal, my friend. All of the above. You are witnessing energy, in my opinion. Oops. Sorry. But I like reading your comments, honestly. I enjoy you running your mouth. Thank you. The human condition, absolutely. Oh, you made a video on how to set up a hangout on air. Oh, all right. Okay. I will check that out and see if I can do that. And absolutely. Now, Mother Nature, I don't know how far you've been or listened to my videos, but I've had 25 serious head concussions. And I'm not joking. It's not a lie. I'm not making it up. I'm serious. 25 at least. 10 really bad, knocked me out for days on end kind of thing. I mean, I'm supposed to be dead. But I'm not. I'm still here. So there are things that used to come real easy to me. I mean, I used to be a CAD operator and did things in 3D. And I mean, and I taught people how to use CAD, computer-aided drafting, AutoCAD. I mean, I was back in that for 25 years. I've done AutoCAD and drawing and so forth and engineering design. So I'm not new to computers or anything like that, or dealing in complicated, commands as far as creating something. But since my last head injury and this last traumatic trauma brain thingy with all the meds and the seizures that I've had, it's harder for me to do the things that were absolutely like I could just type them out and do them. I wouldn't even have to think about it. Now I have to get out the book and go, and put in and it's every time. I'm like, the only thing good about this live Google thing is there's a button that you hit and it says, okay, go. And I'm here. So, but yes, I do want to learn it. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate the fact that someone can see my intelligence, because one of the things that I look back on, and I look at the old people who had some type of effect on my life. And I've discussed in different ways. I mean, one of my friends that I used to sit with, him and his wife were in their late 60s, and they were both professors at Valdosta State College in South Georgia. And he was a history professor because he was a retired lieutenant colonel from the Army. And his job during World War II was writing, get this, writing all of the manuals for every single thing in the Army. I mean, from guns to tanks to you name it. He wrote the books and was the editor for all of the World War II manuals having anything to do with anything that was in the Army. That was Colonel Chauvar's job. So he'd tell me about during World War II about how they got all these tanks landed on the beaches and they were going into Germany, but nobody understood that the tank treads at the time would only last 25 miles. And he goes, so they'd go 25 miles and the treads would fall off the tanks and they'd just be sitting there and had no way to get new treads to the tanks. So it's like during the Battle of the Bulge, I was like, and I knew a gentleman who received, I couldn't believe it, the presidential award. Is it not the Silver Star? It's like the highest star you can get for medical bravery, for wartime bravery, and Medal of Honor. And I didn't know it, but he was the owner of the carnival, and I didn't find out about the fact that he was in the Battle of the Bulge as a young man in Germany during that time. And so when I was reading all these war books during high school in the 60s, he was asking me questions about stuff. And I was like, well, how do you know? And he'd say, well, I was there. Well, at that time, it didn't really matter. But then when I found out that he received the highest award in for bravery, and he received the Purple Heart, and he never said a word to this to me. But here he was, one of the highest decorated, and he was only a sergeant. And it's like, oh my God. So I listened to this man tell me stories about World War II because he was there. I listened to the colonel talk about things about stuff because he was there. He met General Patton. He met MacArthur. He met these people. He knew them. And I'm like, holy crap. And we're sitting there drinking scotch and getting hammered. You know what I'm saying? And I'm like 25 years old, and understanding. But now I look back and go, oh my God, what did I have at my fingertips? I had all of these people and all this information. Oh, the questions I would ask now, Okay, excuse me. A lot of pollen in the air. They're getting ready to spray the cotton down here. So I look back on my life and I think to myself, some of the knowledge that I have attained over the years, some of it a little on the odd side, this, that, and the other thing. But, like my talks about Sister Helene, the Dominican nun at Tampa Catholic. She told me things about the Vatican in 1970 that are coming out now. And I've known about these things for the last almost 50 years now. Almost 50 years, yeah. Damn. I'll be 66 in 2 months, though. I think to myself now, and my grandmother was important to me. So was my granddad on my, on the Raleigh side of the family. But he taught me, he was a moonshine runner. He knew A.J. Foyt and some of these guys as a moonshine runner. And I can't think of the other tall, lanky guy's name, wears sunglasses. But anyway, he knew these guys before stock car races. My grandma told me after he passed away, he was a moonshine runner in the 30s and the 40s, running it from Kentucky into Ohio. And how he had a brand new 35 Ford and they fitted it out and put in the tanks and for the moonshine. And he went to Kentucky, and on the way back, the revenuers chased him and he wrecked a brand new Ford and went down the following day and bought another brand new Ford. And she goes, but don't you ever tell your aunt or your mama about this, because they would just die. And I'm thinking to myself, holy crap. So, well, I was a drug runner, but, that's another story. Mostly weed, but to the point, though, I look back and say, well, wait a minute, but Grandpa taught me about stock car racing before stock car racing was even a big deal. I knew about, engines and things, and I went to Daytona in like 66, I think it was, or 67, and watched AJ Foyt and some of these, on the track in Daytona. And so it's like my grandparents and the older folks, because even though I was a young punk, I listened. Now, younger people, yeah, but I don't know. I found that older folk had certain things that were of interest to me, even as a young child and a teenager. Well, later on in life too. But so had I not been interested, and I just been, I never would have learned what Colonel Shavar told me. I never would have learned the things that his wife discussed with me about psychology and human behavior and all these and philosophical type things. I mean, we would literally have discussions for hours with these folks. And I think to myself now, I couldn't wait to be a grandparent. And now it's like my grandkids could give a shit. They don't care. My kids don't care. So, and I'm like, what? I mean, well, they don't go see their grandmother either, but that's beside the point. It's that society has changed so drastically. We old folk who really do have some good information, and it is pertinent today. It's like, yeah, I've had my issues with my memory and head concussions, and not drug abuse, but their abuse of pushing drugs on me that I had serious reactions to. That's what messed my mind up. It wasn't my drug taking. I knew better. I think to myself, there's a lot of knowledge in older folk these days. Really pertinent, good information. And we're literally just pushed to the side. You're just an old fogey and you don't know what the hell you're talking about. And the kinds of things you're discussing are bullshit. Now, some of these older folk are... gotta be careful how I say this, but they're Bible thumpers, and it's like they got so ingrained in their Bible because it's the only way they can think now. Everything else is lost to them except their Bible. So when I bring up something like, hey, the Bible's this, and da-da-da, and look at what Jesus said, and look at the fact that there were angels and that there were giants in the land in those days. I mean, look at the things that they do say and pick out those key words, because the rest of it's just a book. And they fly off the handle with me. And I'm like, well, wait a minute, we're the same age here. You've gone through a lot of the same kinds of trauma that I did, but we reached a different conclusion. Okay. But now, bottom line, though, is that we are both have become more spiritual. I went off the track and went to Buddhism and Hinduism and all the other different religions in search of the truth. Other folks, they only find truth in the Bible. And some folks laid the Bible down, then picked it up later on. But to the point, though, they became more spiritual. Now, I applaud that. I do. And I have stated before, and I'll state it again. If you require the Bible or some other holy book, I would hope that you would look at the positive things that are said. Look for the tree in the forest, because basically that's it. But look for what's important. Be kind. Here I go with the compassionate word again. Be generous. You cannot take it with you. So as you relieve yourself of the physical things, what I need versus what I want, my spiritual things, I must forgive these folk, because if I can't take this anger and this whatever this nastiness is with me to the next world. Oh my God, no. That'll drag me down. I want to go up. I want to ascend. So I'm going to dump the rocks out of my pocket. You know what I'm saying? I mean, I used to go body surfing in the old days, back in the 60s, early 70s, when I was still in Florida. And when a hurricane was off the coast or whatever, the waves would come up. And we didn't have surfboards because down there in Florida, the waves ain't this high. I mean, you can get a bigger wave behind a bass boat down here in South Georgia. But to the point we'd body surf. And man, you'd get dropped on the darn beach and then drugged back out with the undertow, and your underwear would fill up with shells and sand in your pockets. I mean, I literally come out of the waves and I would wonder, how in the hell did I get sand? I mean, fill my pockets up, because we'd just go in on our jeans or whatever and go swimming back then. But to the point, though, it's like, but when you had all this stuff in your pockets, it made you heavier, How can you swim with rocks in your pockets, right? So how can you ascend at all into heaven or another reality, another dimension, if you got rocks in your pockets? I mean, isn't that what non-forgiveness is? Isn't that what hate does? Isn't that what all of these negative things do? Is add weight to us, to our spirit, to our heavenly bodies, to our angelic selves. And what I think each of us really wants is to be able to figure out how to get there without having to, swim too hard with too many rocks in your pockets. Well, the first thing to do is understand that you might have rocks in your pockets before, and you didn't realize it. Do you know? I mean, I know it's a stupid question, but I didn't realize I had rocks in my pockets. I was like, I thought I was clear. And then I started looking even deeper. Oh, crap. I'm going back to the peanut butter. Oh, I need more peanut butter. No, you don't. You already got enough. But, so it's that whatever it is in your head. Now, whatever possesses my head is obviously different from yours. But that's the good news. But I look at religion as too many rocks in our pockets, because of the fact that there are so many things. The other words weight our spirit down. So it's really good to read a good passage there, and ooh, that brings my spirits up. That's a good thing, right? But when you start reading into chapter and chapter, and you have to believe, for example, that it's like if you don't believe that we're in Revelations right now, take a look around again, because we are. And we're almost at the end of Revelations, as I've stated before. And yes, it is the end of the world as we know it, because all these paradigms are changing. All of these folks who are looking at, oh my God, the world, oh, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, but there is light at the end of that tunnel. And we're all seeing it. And I don't mean like as in death light at the end of the tunnel, but there are those of us who are looking and going, you know what? I gave up a couple of years ago. I really became a hermit. I didn't want to come off my property for squat. People are lousy. They treat you crappy. There's junk on the side of the roads. I mean, I'd walk up and down my highway out in front of my house down to the bridge and back. Every other day, there's just as much garbage as there was the day I picked it up. And I'm like, we don't even have that many people live around here. Where in the hell is this garbage coming from? And what the hell is wrong with people that they can't? So, and I just gave up. I said, the hell with it. The hell with it. What good is it going to do for me to go pick up that stuff on the side of the road? It's just going to be somewhere there tomorrow. What the hell? I gave up. Well, then I got like I've said before, I got some folks with a cattle prod on my backside saying, you need to straighten that shit out, Dave. You gave up. But I had a reason, or so I thought, because I didn't see any hope. And it came out here just in this last week, and I have discussed this, but only touching it, and how crazy our kids are today. I mean, when they started this core crap, and 2 + 2 is 7, or whatever the craziness is. And I look around and the things have been changed. I asked somebody one day, I said, do you know what mores are? And they were like, what? And never mind. Did you take sociology? Huh? Is that like human experience or something, man? And I was, no, humanities. I don't know. Did you take sociology? What does that mean? Well, that's a study of our government, and but well, we have a president. Uh, isn't that Hillary? Uh, it's like, wait a minute. And these are the young kids. These are the bright ones. Something else about the younger folk. Not putting them down in a way, maybe, but not on purpose. Actually, I'm critiquing the young folk. And I seriously believe it's not their fault. It's the cell phone technology. It's all the this and this and this and this. And I brought it up one evening in a discussion. I said, people don't understand about what the flashing lights are doing in these commercials to you. That you don't know. And I made the statement, and somebody was in the chat, and they were like, so you think you're all that and flashing lights, and you're just a conspiracy theory. Look, when you go to a neurologist to be checked for seizures, they use flashing lights. They use a strobe light about this far from your face, so bright you can't get away. And I've never felt pain like I have felt from flashing light. I'm serious. Can't get away from it, strapped in a chair, and then you start having a seizure and throwing up and swallowing your tongue and can't breathe. And then they send you to the hospital because they used flashing lights on you and triggered a seizure. That's what they do. Check it out. So now, when I say, I watch a commercial and there's two, by the time the third flash hits me, I've closed my eyes or I've covered my face. And it's like Stargate. They do this wormhole thing, and it's beautiful. But the way the lights and the twirling goes, when I see them start that frame, I close my eyes immediately, and I listen for the music cue to when that visual swirling flashy light goes away, because it will literally make me pass out. I don't know what it does. But because my brain has been so traumatized, I am, yes, more susceptible to the flashing lights. But the thing is, I'm aware of what the flashing lights do to me. And I try to tell other people, you just don't know because it's happening in your subconscious and you're going, what was that? You don't have a clue. Now, I have a clue because it affects me quicker. And I mean, like that in the blink of an eye. So I bring this up to folks at other people who have had any type of seizure disorder at all, or are very light sensitive, for example. They'll agree with me. But the everyday folk who are getting blasted by all these, and even by the people, oh God, this is what drives me even more insane. The light worker people who are supposed to be like tuned into this crap, they have all the flashing lights at the beginning of their videos, some of them. And I'm like, wait a minute, what are you doing? You're contributing to the issue. You're doing flashing lights with, but you think it's cool. Well, it might be. And yes, it's artistic. But do you understand what the 1 second picture, do you know what that's doing to folks' brain? And if you're doing it just because it's everybody else is doing it, then shame on you, because you shouldn't. Now, I know that's a big argument, but I'm here to tell you there's little secrets Dave's got that are happening in your life. Like I was talking about on my rant the other night about plastics. People refuse to put down their goddamn plastic jugs and cups and bottles and everything's plastic. And it's okay. I'm sorry. Yes, I said goddamn. Small g. But these folks are trying to teach the rest of us that their way of life and their way of thinking is good for all of us. And I'm going, but you're a hypocrite. I mean, you're using flashing lights. You're drinking out of a plastic cup every time you're on the air, and you're doing these other things. In my book, you still don't have a clue. And I'm not trying to put in, I'm better than you, or that's not my point. My point is that in my studies, in my it's not religious, spiritual. In my spiritual journey, I have been showed these things. And I've watched you over the years, and I have liked your videos and shared them. But at the same time, you're stuck in that paradigm of 2 years ago. Why haven't you moved on? And I think to myself, instead of just going, "Hi, I'm here," they try to make a fancier, longer introduction to their videos with more flashing lights and more flashy pictures and everything because they think it's cool. And that's where the brainwashing has come in. People are learning how to do these things that the big companies have been doing for years. I mean, back in the 60s, it was a big deal because they would flash across the screen, "Buy peanut butter." I mean, seriously. And they wrote a law. He said, you can't do that. Well, then they started figuring out how to do it subliminally with flashing lights, with the words in the flashing light, and it gets imprinted into your subconscious, and you don't know it's there until it decides to come out, or it's triggered by something. And all you got to do is just a little bit of homework, and you'll find out that they've been doing this stuff since the Hitler days. I mean, they were trying this stuff back then. Yeah, I know TV didn't really come out until, but they had similar types of things. So, what has this got to do with the moon and this and that? We all want to ascend. We all want to rise up, I believe. Now, I know there are a few of us that still want to go down below or still say that I don't have to give up this, or that's your choice. But if it's lowering your vibration, like me, I wanted to light the cigarette an hour and a half ago. But I do things like this. Instead of lighting it, I hang it around, put them in, and I won't smoke it. Oh, it's a stupid thing. Well, but I'll hold on to it. Because sometimes because I've been smoking since I was 14 years old, or 13 maybe, so a good 60 years, 50 years I've been smoking, at least. And so sometimes it's just to have the cigarette in my hand. That's all. I don't have to smoke it. I wave it around and, ooh, I got a cigarette. Ooh. But it's like, okay, why didn't you light it? Well, it's been an hour and a half and I haven't lit this damn thing yet. Go ahead and light the damn thing. Okay, fine. But it tricks my brain into, I don't really need these. I'm trying to quit smoking, been trying, and I roll my own a lot, so I don't buy cigarettes all the time. And I'm like, okay, I make compromises. Sometimes I'll go a whole day. I will make myself not have a cigarette, even though I might be screaming at myself. I said, nope, can't have one today. And stick to it. How strong are you? Now, back in the day, the Catholics still do this, during the 6 weeks of Lent, you give up something. It's really difficult sometimes. Well, that was the whole point. Now, but think of it like this, though. It's self-control. It's not about giving up something. How much self-control do you have? Could you say, okay, I'm not going to smoke a cigarette today, and actually mean it, actually get through the day? Can you say, well, you know what? I drink too many sodas. I'm only going to drink one today. Whatever it might be. But can you stick to your own thing? That's why people can't lose weight. They can't stick to it. Everything is, well, yeah. They always make up an excuse because they're weak of self-weakness. Oh, well, it's okay. Society says, it's been 2 weeks. I can go ahead and, go back to my old habits again. Well, then you have no internal integrity then. And it's easy to lose. Now, I've had my bouts with stuff. But to the point, though, for a short duration, can you turn your cell phone off for 4 hours? And get, maybe not. Well, bathroom's calling, my meds are calling, I'm out of coffee calling, and I really do want to smoke this cigarette. So, and it's been an hour and 38 minutes. So, Mother Nature, I will stand with you about the thing. Local honey will help with allergies. You know what? We don't have local honey anymore. And I live in a town that has an apiary that raises bees, one of the few apiaries in the world. And the Rossman Apiaries outside of Moultrie, Georgia, is one of the biggest apiaries. There aren't the people. I used to be able to get local honey around here all the time. There isn't any. There isn't any. You love some old timer stories and facts. Respect always. Respect to you as well. Yeah. In fact, I have a deal with a friend of mine who's recovering from cancer. And we were discussing it the other day when we went to town, and that I want to get my shop fixed back up so I can build us. He wants to raise bees, and so do I. So, but anyway, hopefully I might, by when the weather cools down, I'll be back in my shop outside doing some woodwork and building some beehives. So, love to you all. Be kind, be considerate, be respectful, live with integrity, live with honor. Young people deserve our honor, unless they're assholes. I'm sorry. Some kids are just, you just can't reason with. But don't fight with them. If they don't get your point of view, don't fight with them. It's not worth it. They're not going to listen to you. And the louder you try to get your point across, the less they're going to listen. Just remember how you were when you were a teenager. Did you listen? I didn't listen to my parents, but I did listen to other people because they spoke to me as an adult. They treated me with respect. So if you treat other people with respect, that will be a reciprocal treatment to you, and you will get respect back. So I love you all. Good morning, good afternoon. It's 4:15. It's almost time for a bowl. God love you all. Bye. I got to pee. I'm fixing to pee on the floor.